Alright, so this is the tongue. This one should be a review from AP1. If you look across the top of the tongue, you will see the ridge-like structures. Those are called papillae. That's these fellows here. And on the sides of the papillae, you actually have your taste buds. If you start to magnify this and really look, you can see the taste buds a little bit better across the sides there. If we go all the way up, you guys should probably wait until we actually focus it.
That'd be a good idea.
You can actually see the rounded structures on the side. That is a taste bud. A taste bud, yes. Okay. Everybody got all their pictures? Mm-hmm. Okay.
No. Nobody.
If we go to the top layer of tissue, if we go from the connective tissue here up, okay, we notice that we're dealing with very flat cells, and we notice that there are multiple layers of flat cells. This is stratified squamous epithelium. Okay, so this is what we expect to find here across the top layer of the tongue. How is this different from the tissue that we find in the skin? It's not keratinized. Okay, that's the big difference. So we have stratified squamous epithelium there. We have the taste buds on the sides. If we go deeper within the tissue, we start to see something that looks like this. What in the world is this? Skeletal muscle. Okay. How do we know? We have long fibers. They're multinucleated. They're striated. Okay. So this is skeletal muscle. So that's the tongue. Very commonly, you will see something that will look similar to this view. Well, maybe like this. You're going to get multiple questions off this slide. So it'll be, tell me the name of the ridge-like structures across the top. Those will be papillae. What are the names of the sensory structures along the sides? Taste buds. What type of tissue would be forming the outer layer? Stratified squamous. What type of tissue do we find deeper that allows for movement? Skeletal muscle. Okay. Easy enough, right? Okay. Let's take a look at a stomach slide. No list necessary. The stomach is kind of interesting, to say the least. Okay. Find a good place to start. Be a good place to start. Remember that essentially the structure of the digestive system is almost exactly the same. Layer on the inside is going to be mucosa. That is going to be made up of simple columnar epithelium. Lots of goblet cells scattered throughout there. Okay, and it's going to be no different in the stomach. One of the things that we're going to see that's going to help us differentiate the stomach from the intestine is the presence of rugae versus villi. Rugae are foldings. So you will see kind of this irregular pattern as it goes. So if you take a look at this one, can you see how it almost looks like there are these gaps and things, and then there are gaps down here? That's where this tissue is actually folded upon itself. Okay? So these are not villi. Do not mistake those as villi. These are rugae. These are foldings within the tissue. Okay? If we go below the mucosa, then the next layer that we find is submucosa. And again, submucosa throughout the entire digestive tract is essentially going to be the same type of tissue. It's going to be connective tissue. And its job is to help hold the mucosa to the actual muscle layer underneath. Okay, so what we're looking at here, this tissue that we see here, is going to be the submucosa. And then if we drop down and look to the inside, this material that we see here is actually going to be the smooth muscle on the inside of the organ. So this is going to be what we would refer to as the muscularis externa. Again, same thing in the stomach and in the intestine. You're going to see the same layering. The muscular layer there is going to be referred to as the muscularis externa. And then if we go to the very outside of the organ, which I got to kind of detour down a little bit because of the way this is folded, we see this type of tissue. This is a special type of tissue called serous tissue. So this is what we're going to have as listed as the serosa. Serous tissue is a specialized epithelium that secretes a fluid called serous fluid. It allows for the organs to move around each other and over each other without rubbing holes in each other. And so the serous fluid acts as a lubrication for the tissue. All right, so let's go back to the top layer and take a look at the structures here on the top layer. Okay. If we take a look here, can you see the foldings here again? If we look in between the foldings, there are these pits that form within the foldings. Those are the gastric pits. And at the bottom of the gastric pits, you're going to have the production of hydrochloric acid and your enzymes. And that's going to be secreted out into the lumen of the organ, into the stomach, so that it can digest food. The cells are going to be located across the tops of these foldings. So we'll zoom in and take a look at those. Now, stomach is a harsh environment, so the cells get beat up. So they don't look nice and regular like we would expect to see. But this is going to be simple columnar epithelium here forming across the top of these foldings, and this would represent our mucosa. Every so often we will see that there are clear spots. Those are the goblet cells. You can see the goblet cells well developed in the stomach to help protect from stomach acid. Below the mucosa, we can see a finger here of the submucosa. And that's just going to be our connective tissue that's going to help connect that to the layer underneath. Okay. If we drop down, you see more of that submucosa. You see some more foldings there where we see the epithelium. Here, for example, is a really nice columnar cell. Okay. And again, more of that submucosa there. And if we drop all the way back down to the inside, we can see our muscularis externa layer. There is our smooth muscle. So these spindle-shaped fibers that are stacked in on top of each other with elongated nuclei. That's a good thing to look for. There's those elongated nuclei within the skeletal muscle cells. And then if we follow all the way to the outside, there's our serous layer. So that would be the serosa. And you can see the serous cells here look reminiscent to a kind of a combination between squamous epithelium and cuboidal epithelium. Kind of somewhere in between. Okay? Questions about the stomach?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No.
No, go.
Would you just say the shape is the way that you would know that that's serous tissue?
Shape and location.
Okay.
I mean, you probably would not see a slide this magnified asking you questions about it. You're going to see one further out to start asking about layers.
Okay.
You're not going to be this far in. You're going to be somewhere out at this layer, and you're going to have questions asked off of something like this. Where the very inside here will be your mucosa and your submucosa, muscularis externa, and then the serous layer on the outside. So you're going to see something like that. You're not going to see something that magnified. But I thought it would help you to be able to see kind of what composes those layers to help.
But if it is magnified, it's going to be the rugae, the goblet, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to see more of those structures on the inside, like the rugae and the goblet cells and things like that.
Cool.
Okay?
Move.
All right. Intestine slide?
What time is it?
Yes, please.
Intestine slide is a review. We've seen him
I gotta
before.
go.
So you can find a good area where you have a nice villi. Sorry. Okay. So you see coming off the surface of the organ here, the finger-like projections coming up and then falling back, coming up and falling back. Those are villi. Okay. What kind of distinguishes this from rugae is the fact that these rise from one spot and then fall back down and connect, rise and fall again, whereas rugae are more wrinkled. And you'll see multiple foldings sometimes on each wrinkle. These, you pretty much get the single finger that comes up and falls back down. So these are going to be villi. And again, we've got the same type of layering composition on the tissue. It's going to be mucosa, submucosa, and then muscularis externa. So if we look right around the outside here, this is going to be our mucosa. That's again going to be simple columnar epithelium with your goblet cells. And you can see those are the pink cells that are kind of interspersed throughout there. And then this material connecting it here will be the connective tissue that makes up the submucosa. If we fall back down, we'll see kind of at the bottom of the villus here, there is our mucosa. Here is our submucosa. Okay, and then if we follow down, there is our muscularis externa, and then right around the outside here, this different looking tissue would be the serous layer, or the serosa. Okay? So the composition is pretty much the same from top to bottom. As you're going down the digestive system, it's pretty much the same. The oral cavity is a little bit different, but once you get into the esophagus, the stomach, the intestine, the actual composition of tissues is the same. You get a little bit different structure-wise. Rugae in the stomach, gallbladder versus villi in the intestine. Okay? Go back up. Take a look at this, just so we can kind of confirm that this is cuboidal epithelium. If we look right across the side here, we can see our nice cuboidal epithelium. There's our basement membrane. There's our apical surface. If we draw our line through, we're going through one cell. Big column-shaped cells, large, prominent goblet cells there within the tissue. Okay? Questions about that one? Good enough. Okay. Gallbladder.
Yes.
If you had to draw a comparison for the gallbladder, it's very similar to the stomach in that it has rugae. The thing I like about the gallbladder is that the rugae are very visible. It's very easy to see why they're rugae, not villi. If you take a look here, for example, can you see how this guy comes up and folds over and comes back down, and he's going to fold back over again? Okay, these are most definite rugae. And this is one of the easiest places on a slide to actually see rugae. Therefore, it's one of the easiest places to actually say, what are these structures? Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Okay? These are most definite rugae. Now, one of the things that you have to do on this is you have to do a little bit of deductive reasoning on this too. Because if we show you this slide at this view and we say, what are these structures? And then we turn around and say, what composes the outer layer of these structures? You have to understand what type of tissue you're looking at here. So what type of tissue would be found forming those rugae? What makes up the mucosa of the gallbladder? No, the mucosa.
Simple columnar.
It's going to be simple columnar, just like every other area within the digestive tract. Okay?
So
That's a commonly missed question. That students will tell us that this is rugae, but they will not understand that this is still going to be simple columnar epithelium. In every area internally in the digestive system is simple columnar epithelium. Okay? With the exception of the parts of the esophagus and parts of the anus. Okay? So as we take a look at that, these are going to be the rugae. Tissue going across the top of it is going to be simple columnar epithelium. Now, we do not see as much muscle in the gallbladder. Okay? So the muscularis layer is very, very small. Sometimes it's very difficult to make out even. See the thin strands here? That's your muscularis externa. So you have the mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa of smooth muscle, and then the rest of this is the serosa. Very, very thick. Yeah.
Is it so thick for protection, or?
Remember what the gallbladder is going to do. Gallbladder is going to expand as it stores bile. It's in close proximity to the liver, and as it does that, it does need that extra protection to keep it from rubbing against the liver and poking holes in it. You don't want bile leaking out in your abdomen. That's usually not a good thing. It's like the understatement of the year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's our gallbladder. That one's pretty simple once you kind of realize what you're looking at. And again, if you look at the digestive system as a whole, you understand that the tissue that you're looking for internally is always going to be simple columnar epithelium. You're going to have connective tissue under that, and then you're going to have your smooth muscle under that, and finally on the very outside you're going to have your serosa. I mean, the composition is continuous, and it's because it evolves that way, right? Think about it as far as human development goes. This structure is going to start off as a mass of cells and is going to develop into a tube, and as that tube elongates and grows, it's going to be the same composition. You're not going to waste time differentiating different cells to give rise to new structures. All those structures are going to kind of differentiate along the same pathway and create cells that are similar. Okay? And to a certain degree, the urinary system's the same way.